Maybe don't know.
This time, next time, it's time to build. This 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 time power. This time to build power. This time to build power. This time to build power.
What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Chris Hampton.
And this is Nate Drolet.
And together we form Boulder and Scully.
X-Files?
X-Files.
Oh, man. I got lucky on that one.
You got one. Do you know why?
Because these creatures next to us? No, that can't be it.
No.
No, I've got nothing.
It's because they were always searching for the answers.
And so are we.
So are we. And so is this episode. People very often answer why they're failing or why they're having a bad time by blaming the Routesetters.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not their fault.
Yeah, and we've all done it.
We've all done it. And don't get me wrong, there are some bad Routesetters. You all know who you are.
Yeah.
There are some Routesetters who suck. But for the most part, it's not the Routesetters' fault. Even the Routesetters who suck, it's not their fault if you suck.
Correct. Yeah. And good Routesetters can put up bad climbs.
Absolutely. And bad Routesetters can put up amazing climbs.
Mm-hmm.
So you never know. But the point is here that we're going to be discussing is stop blaming the Routesetters. And here are 5 reasons why you should stop blaming them and how you should redirect your gaze, your question, your search for answers in the great unknown, as Mulder and Scully would do. You want to jump us into number 1 here?
Yeah. So number 1 reason for why you should stop blaming Routesetters is that boulders and routes are puzzles. Like, they're supposed to be challenging.
Yeah.
And this is one I see all the time. You know, people will try something, and if it doesn't click immediately, they're just like, oh, this is dumb. Like, that foot's too bad. This move's too big. All these different things. And what's funny is when you first start climbing, everything is so strange and so foreign that you almost don't have you don't even know you can blame the Routesetters yet.
Right.
So you're just like, whoa, I've got no clue what's going on here. Did you see that guy twist his leg in? That was weird. How do you do that? Like, it's just, everything is new and strange. And so you just kind of accept that you have more to learn. Like, these are physical puzzles that we put our bodies through. And I think that's like one of the coolest things about climbing. But it's hard to remember that with climbing in the gym. Yeah,
that's a really good point that you make. We go into all of these things anytime we're trying to learn something, and there's this concept of the beginner's mind thrown around. Try to have a beginner's mind, and you're exactly right. When you're a beginner, you don't know to blame the setter.
Yeah,
you're just like, everybody in here knows more than me, so I must need to learn to be able to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You don't automatically add your excuses in and just say, oh, the person who created this thing must be wrong.
Yeah.
'Cause it doesn't feel right to me.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing I hear thrown around in the gym all the time, when someone encounters something that they're finding too challenging, you can tell when someone is stuck in a place, is in a fixed mindset about something, because very often they will say, that doesn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, if that doesn't work for me comes out of my mouth, I'm like, oh, this is something I need to learn how to make work for me.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's it's a very funny thing because, like, with rock climbing, it's supposed to be frustrating. Like, we're supposed to find these things that are very challenging. Like, you should look at a problem and say, man, I have no clue how I'm going to do that. And the whole purpose is we go and we try and figure out how to do it. Like, oh, I didn't know I could apply pressure with my legs in that way and then like move in this direction. I didn't think I could make those combinations work. You know, if you every time you walked up to a boulder or a route and you're like, oh, I know exactly what's going to happen, like, you know, the problem solving isn't really there. Like, and that's just like, that happens sometimes with very simple problems.
Yep.
But it's not that common, and it shouldn't be.
Yeah, and you know, one of my favorite things is to go to an established boulder and spot something right next to it that looks really fun and has really interesting moves that no one's seen yet. And it's entirely because I've spent time in the gym doing absolutely ludicrous things that don't make any sense, you know? And I, at first anyway, and I don't go outside and think, oh, the relationship of these holds doesn't make any sense, so this is stupid, I'm not going to try it.
Yeah.
You know, I think, oh, it would be really cool if I could connect this thing together that nature created, you know?
Mm-hmm.
What's different about, you know, Jim Bob in your gym setting something that doesn't make sense to you, and then you getting to figure out how to fit yourself into those spaces between the holds.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, you know, that's something I know I'm guilty of. If I see something outdoors and it looks completely fucked up, I'm like, oh, cool. Like, I need to figure this out. Yeah. But if it's something indoors, it's so easy to be like, who set this? What's that tag say?
Right.
Oh, you know, like JD.
This setter must be really tall.
Oh yeah. Really taller. Oh, this person just set so many Gastons. Like, next.
Yeah.
Like, and you'll see that. Like, I even know some gyms, they stopped putting Routesetter names on the tags because people would start making kind of jumping to it conclusions or making these assumptions early on.
Yeah, that's a shame. You know, we all get into this. Not all of us, but a lot of us do get into this because we enjoy the challenge. We enjoy, you know, figuring out these physical puzzles that are presented to us. And then we decide we like a specific kind of puzzle and we only want that puzzle from now on, you know.
And only to be a certain amount of challenging.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like, we get into any activity you do, most of us, we look at it and we're like, oh, that's challenging, but it's challenging in a way I enjoy. Like, for a lot of people with climbing, it's physical and it's cerebral, which is really cool. But if climbing was just really easy, you probably wouldn't come back. Like, you never would have come back a second time if all the walls were huge chugs and it was on slabs and the only goal was to get to the top by any means.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh, cool, I climbed all the walls. And you hear this with, like, people will come in, like brand new climbers, and if they aren't explained how, like, grades and routes work, they'll be like, oh, I've climbed all the walls.
Yeah.
All right, well, see ya. Let's go roller skating next time.
Yep, totally.
Oh.
Yeah, and I mean, how many times have you gone outside bouldering, sport climbing, whatever, and either figured out or seen someone else do a piece of beta that is entirely new and novel to you, and then you try it and you're almost connecting it, and that gets you really excited to come back to this thing, you know? Oh, I got to come back here tomorrow, you know?
Yeah.
I'm coming back next week, or I got to start planning another trip now because this is so cool. I have to come back and do this super unique, interesting thing.
Yeah.
In the gym, it's not unique and interesting. It's dumb and awkward.
That's stupid. Why did they put that there? This foot isn't even where it should be. Like, do they even know what they're doing?
Right. They turned this handhold the wrong way. This is a right hand grip.
All the holds are facing the wrong way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, you know, and it is funny, like, with outdoor climbing, we have that different perspective of, you know, well, it's here. Like, I just have to do it. Like, you know, you don't curse the route setter.
I do curse nature occasionally.
Yes.
Yesterday in particular, I cursed nature multiple times.
Yes, you did. You know, nature hurts my feelings sometimes.
It does.
My skin a lot of times. But, you just, you know, you look at it and you're like, well, this is it. All right, let's just get after it.
Yep.
And I think this kind of segues us into number two. Number two reason on why you shouldn't blame the route setters is that one thing we hear a lot is, oh, well, this is nothing like the outdoors.
Yeah, more and more these days we hear that.
Yeah. And let me just say, it is like the outdoors.
Yeah,
Even
totally.
the comp problems, honestly, especially the comp problems. And it's less that it's not like the outdoors, and it's that maybe your perspective of what the outdoors is a little too narrow.
Right.
And this is something, we encounter all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But man, with modern climbing gyms, like with volumes alone make climbing indoors so much more like outdoors than like back when it was just flat panels.
Yeah.
It's wild. And we have all these just crazy, unique new types of holds. It's unbelievable. Like the gap that has been closed, even in the last 5 years, has been enormous.
Yep. Yeah, for some reason, and I'm probably guilty of thinking this from time to time, but now I can't fathom why any of us have ever said or looked at the current state of climbing indoors and said, there aren't any more just straightforward, straight up crimp ladder lines, so it's getting further and further from climbing outside.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't climbed on a straight up crimp ladder outside in years.
They're very rare. And it's why they are highlighted when they exist.
Yeah.
Like you look, a very classic one, and this is kind of funny, you look at Free Willy and Waco Tanks.
Yep. That's the only one that comes to mind.
Well, and here's what's funny. The opening move, if you put that in the gym, people would lose their mind.
That's a really great point. That opening move is weird.
Yeah, you have to hand-foot match this right-hand two-finger pocket, and you have to do this like off-balance throw, and your feet are under a roof, and there's no good foot there. So it's this weird off-balance throw to like a capped sloper crimp that's really precise.
Yep.
And it's funny, I've seen plenty of people come out, smash all of the crimp moves, and then fall on that opening move for hours.
Yep.
And it's because, it's not a straightforward crimp move. And it's not the hardest move, but if all you can do is straightforward crimp, like it'll slow you down.
Yep. Yeah, and I bet there's a whole lot of kids coming out of the gym who are just smashing that first move without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because they've learned so many new skills, so many new ways to fit their body in between holds, to move through space, to create momentum out of weird positions.
Mm-hmm.
Our skills when climbing in the gym was straightforward crimp and sloper ladders were incredibly limited.
Yeah.
So, and I just, like I said in the previous point, one of my favorite things about climbing outside is finding holds that look like there shouldn't be a problem there, but it works.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many famous boulders that are like that. Just weird positions, super unique. People take uniqueness and make it a big extra star on boulders outside.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's like if you have to lead, feet first or throw wild toe hooks or all these different things, which you do often. But it's like, it's funny how I hadn't even thought about this till you just said it. The more unique climbing is outdoors, the higher it's praised.
Right.
The more unique climbing is indoors, the more people shit on it.
And the more unlike
Outdoors
real climbing it is.
Yes. Yeah. Outdoors, like people are like, oh, that's really like, oh, it's just straightforward, whatever. It's fine. But like, good problems are very unique. Where indoors, people are like, oh, it'd be nice if we had some more straightforward problems.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. That's kind of.
Exactly. And I'll say this. We've probably said it on this podcast before, but if you think for a second that all of those people that you see in the World Cups who are really good at these comp style boulders can't just pull really hard straight forward, you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
They're all wildly strong. And it would be boring as hell if climbing were all just straightforward because you can't make holds small enough for those people.
Yeah, it would be it would be very difficult to separate people in that way.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that's the whole point of these World Cup climbs, is to separate and to give them a reasonable challenge. But yeah, you look at Jakob Schuber, Alex Magos, who we think of him as an outdoor climber, but smashed in the Olympic qualifiers.
Yeah.
Rustam Gamanov came out, did Hypnotize Minds, the second ascent, like in flat shoes and a flat brimmed hat. Couldn't even get close to the wall.
In an afternoon or something.
Absurd.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just came out. And I mean, the world's best climbers have tried that, and all of the rest of them have been bouted, other than Dave Graham, who did it recently.
Yeah.
But after years.
And Daniel, who did the FA.
Daniel with the FA, yes. But yeah, Rustam, just a plastic climber, went out and smashed.
Right. Just a plastic climber.
Yeah.
Air quotes.
But yeah, like outdoor climbing is incredibly diverse. Like, you do so much unique movement. And I think that's something that the longer we've been climbing, the easier it is to say, like, oh no, a moonboard, that's outdoor climbing. Where really that represents a more narrow scope of outdoor climbing.
Yeah.
And, maybe 10 years ago, like, I might have agreed that indoor climbing was not always as specific as outdoor climbing.
Yeah, totally.
But, now with the way things are, like with volumes, with the types of holds, honestly, with the types of setters we're getting, like, there's so much more experience now that this is a profession and people have been able to do this for years. This isn't just, people trading membership for setting a few hours a week.
Right.
Like, we're getting a lot of really cool, unique problems and puzzles. And I think we really need to value that.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's hugely important, and I think that we need to keep in mind as well what our outdoor perspective really is, and how narrow that might be. If you're very focused on one area, your home area, or your project or your style, then chances are what you're looking for in the gym is also really, really narrow.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very easy to make that mistake and expect your gym to fit your perspective. And in reality, it just shouldn't be that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Take a quick break.
Yeah.
All right, break. What's up, everybody? Chris here. I wanted to tell you about our two newest products designed to make you more efficient, more organized, and reduce your excuses. The first two major components of our Essential Elements line, the Crag Kit and the Boulder Bag. The Crag Kit's a collection of items that are a must-have for every climber. We filled it with a special skin file designed just for climbers, nail clippers and detail skin clippers that actually clip, as well as our circuit tape and necessary products from tension and rhino skin. All in a water-resistant case we've partnered with Soil to design, with a built-in zippered mesh pocket and a removable mesh pouch. I won't even go climbing without mine. We designed the Boulder Bag, also in collaboration with Soil, to solve the problems created by shoving backpacks into your crash pad or strapping them to the outside. It's a messenger-style bag that unfolds like a saddlebag to lay flat in your crash pad. No more bumps, no more soft spots in your foam. We made it roomy enough for everything you need, but simple enough that you won't be tempted to take too much shit. Plus, it just looks sexy when you're going to the gym. Game changer. You can find these at powercompanyclimbing.com/essential-elements or click on the link in your show notes in your pocket supercomputer. All right, back to the show. And we are back. So right before the break, you were talking about how we've now got these setters who are professionals, who put tons of thought. It's their whole job. These people eat, sleep, breathe,
and
setting, and Instagram. Thank goodness. Setting and all the different things they can do with setting. Mm-hmm. Shout out Filth Wagon.
Oh God.
and that leads us into our next point, which is that learning is a process, and that goes for setters too, not just for you. And this is how the setters improve, by trying new things, by being really creative, by sometimes setting something bad or weird that doesn't go, or, or is just so out there that no one can understand it.
Yeah.
That's how learning works. And if you want good setters, you have to give them room to learn.
Totally.
Yeah. Just a fact.
Yeah. Learning like you have to fail if you want to learn. You can't be afraid of failure. And for people who haven't set much before, like, it's not that hard to set a smooth, flowy boulder or route.
Right.
Like, especially nowadays, there's so much technology that's progressed in the last 10 years. You're no longer having to put holds on with a T-handle. Like, you have hammer drills. Like, you can make little changes so quickly. You can put things up, take them down. Like, there are so many things. Like, learning can happen really quick as setters now. And, you have these mentorships, you have these big setting teams, a lot of experience. And honestly, after about, within 2 years of route setting, almost anyone can set, a quote, good boulder, good route that's just smooth, flowy. Man, there are feet everywhere, like right where you want them for any height. It's actually very easy to do.
Yeah.
Now, what is hard to do is setting challenging problems that will test people's different types of skills in ways that are unique, that all different type of people can climb on. And it might be something that they've never seen before, or
Right.
an aspect they haven't seen before. That's incredibly hard. And to do that well takes a lot of work, a lot of experience, and a lot of trial and error. So, if you come across one of these things and you're like, oh, this is just like strange or weird, like, sometimes you have to give a little leeway and say, hey, like, this could be them trying something new.
Yeah. And, I've definitely been guilty of making the statement that, in a gym, there's no excuse for less than a 4-star boulder.
Mm-hmm.
I've made that statement a number of times in the past. And now that I have my own home gym and thousands of problems, there are very few that are 4 and 5-star boulders.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of 2-star boulders in there.
Yeah.
And I love them.
They have 2-star boulders can have so much to teach you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's so, there are all sorts of things you can learn from a setter who is also learning. And especially if it's your gym and you get to, you're there often and you get to climb on that setter's boulders as they're learning and as they're progressing. It's a really great opportunity for you to basically be led through a course of learning new movement. Mm-hmm. You get to learn it at the same pace as the setter is learning it. That's fucking fantastic. That's a great opportunity to have. So
yeah,
instead of just bitching about it and saying, this is awkward, this is stupid, embrace the fact that you're getting taken along on this journey that this setter is going through.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And kind of like what we were talking about, just because something isn't 4 stars doesn't mean it's not a good problem for you to learn from. Like, when I think of a 5-star climb, it's like everything is right where I want it. It's comfy. It fits me well. It's square in the comfort zone.
Yeah.
Like, it's the opposite of a vegetable boulder.
Mm-hmm.
And, we've all had this experience of you go up, you're like, oh, this problem's absolute trash. I guess I'll just keep trying it. And then once you figure it out, you're like, yo, hey, everyone, come over here. You have to try this. It's amazing. Hold on. Let me tell you how you got to do it, though.
Right.
Like, once you figure it out, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Like, we've all done that. And,
for sure.
You can take a 2-star problem and make it into a 4-star problem just by the way you climb it.
Yeah. And you can have a 5-star experience on a 1-star boulder.
Yeah. 1-star Wednesdays.
Absolutely. And in fact, a lot of people do. And they think that makes it a classic. That's a whole nother podcast.
That's a different conversation. Yeah.
But that brings us right into our number 4, which is hard or strange doesn't mean bad.
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that's a 1-star boulder just because it feels hard or strange to you.
Yeah.
And this is something I've always said. It's something I tried to hammer home a little bit in The Hard Truth, is just that just because you find something awkward, strange, weird, doesn't mean that that's what it is. It's a static thing.
Mm-hmm.
You have the capacity to learn. So why do we not first turn to ourselves and say, hey, can I learn something that makes this feel more fun, flowy, secure, whatever it is that I'm missing? Is there something about me that I can change to make that work?
Yeah.
And, blame yourself before you blame the setter. And like I said, sometimes setters are going to set things differently than they expected to. It's going to be maybe more awkward than they wanted or stranger. But even in those cases, if you can then find a way to make that work, to make it feel good, then that's a big win. Just the recent Drew Ruana and Nathaniel Coleman video.
Yeah.
In the beginning of that boulder, they do all these weird techniques that look super awkward and strange, but they work.
Mm-hmm.
And then as they do them more and more, you can see them becoming less clunky and just becoming part of the boulder.
Yeah.
Neither of them were like, oh, this is awkward, stupid, I'm going to walk away.
Yeah. Yeah, they were like, this is just a part of the challenge. This is what we do. And, Nathaniel at one point was like, oh, and he's like, this is starting to flow. And he talked about a couple tries in. He was like, this is starting to smooth out. Like, this move still feels a little strange to me. I'm having trouble getting weight on my foot, not on my hands. I need to keep working on that.
Right.
It wasn't, oh, that's stupid. Like, this is just, that sucks at the foot's there.
Yeah. It's a shame this boulder sucks.
Yeah.
But
seriously, Tufa's on granite. That looks amazing.
The thing looked so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love any boulder that forces me to use a new move that I've never done.
Yeah.
I'm like, here I am thinking my bag of tricks is maxed out. And then all of a sudden there's this new move that I've never even seen or heard of or thought existed. You know? How cool is that?
Yeah. I get surprised all the time.
Yeah. 1 star, put a comment in the comment box.
Mm-hmm.
Dumb boulder.
Exactly. I wrote a blog a few years ago. It's still one of my favorites that I wrote. And it was a classic, I think it was classic climbs would be terrible gym boulders.
Yeah.
And that's something y'all can check out. But I pretty much just went down into selected photos of a lot of different classic boulders around the world. And below it, I wrote what I think people would react to it if they were to try it. And this was just using things that I heard all the time in the gym. Oh, the holds are just facing the wrong way. Like, this isn't even hard. It's just weird.
Yeah.
Things like that. And that's rock climbing. Like, I can't tell you how often I think like, oh, this move isn't hard. I just don't get it. It's just strange. Like, these holds aren't bad. Like, the moves aren't big. I don't know why. This shouldn't be hard, but it definitely is.
Right.
Like, and that is a lot of hard climbing. And it's important to, think like, hey, is this just me? Do I just not understand this? And if that's the case, like, if you see someone else who maybe has done that boulder, ask them how they did it. Like, man, maybe ask the setter, like, hey, what did you intend for this? Like, once you've tried it for a little bit, and if you're just like, hey, I don't understand it. Or if you did it and you're like, man, I just had to break the beta, couldn't do it. Go figure out what they intended and then come back and be like, cool, can I do it that way?
Yep. I think a good example is I was just going down this rabbit hole as you were talking of for example, Pinky in the Brain, a problem in the machine shop, which is probably V6-ish and has never been flashed.
Yes.
Not by Angie Payne, not by Segrist, not by BJ Tilden, not by Kerry Scott. A lot of strong climbers have tried it and not flashed it.
And not by me, for everyone who's just wondering, just putting that out there.
And then I started thinking, well, that's a similar thing with World Cup boulders. Like very often, a World Cup boulder isn't V12, V13.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like V7, V8 or something. And what happens is setters have to keep coming up with really creative ways to challenge the best climbers on the planet. So they come up with new movements and interesting, unique movements. And then when someone really hits on something new, what happens? It's in every commercial gym the next week. All the setters are trying to learn how to set that move.
Yeah.
And thank goodness they are. That's cool that one setter in Belgium can come up with this new movement. We all get to see it. And then we've got this whole crew of professionals willing to invest time in learning how to set the exact same move.
Absolutely. Like, how fortunate are we that we can have commercial setters who are so invested that they're like, they will watch a 2-hour live stream of a competition and be like, oh, that's really cool. I'm going to implement this and bring this to my community.
Right.
Like, how rad is that?
Yeah. And Yanya didn't walk up to that boulder and be like, oh, this is dumb.
Yeah.
And just, I'm not going to climb this one.
Mm-hmm.
This is stupid. Instead, she embraces it. She crushes it like she crushes everything.
As she does.
And then we all get to learn from it. And there are thousands of you, millions probably, in your gyms going, well, this is dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And missing that opportunity.
Yeah.
So. And I think that leads us into our last one. And that's that setters are setting for everyone, for all the reasons. It's not just for you. It's not just for you projecting your straight up crimp line.
Mm-hmm.
It's also for the people who watch the World Cups and get excited and want to try those moves. It's for people who just are coming into the gym for the fun of it, for leisure time, or coming in because they're stressed at work and this is their cathartic release.
Yeah.
They have to set for all the thousands of people who walk in the doors.
Short people,
not just for
tall
you.
people. Everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. It has to be for everyone just because, so sometimes a boulder won't fit you and that's okay. Like maybe like if you're really short, like, some problems are just going to be too reachy for you.
Yeah.
You might be able to find a way through, or it might be significantly harder for you than it is for other people, but that's okay. Like that's, that's climbing.
Yeah, I did a boulder yesterday out at the rock shop that for our friend Marina, who's here in town, it might be impossible. Or it might be V13. It's V7 for me. But the moves, and I didn't identify any holds in between, but the moves are gigantic. So, it just is that way sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Nature makes it. Your setter's allowed to do the same.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Like you have to remember there are a bunch of people that climb in your gym. Not everything's going to fit you perfectly. The setter is less like an artist trying to create everything perfectly just for you, and more like a newspaper journalist who just has to crank stuff out on a regular basis. They're going to do their best. They're going to try and hit a lot of topics and try and reach to a broad audience.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to remember it's a business. It's a commodity.
Yeah. Mostly I just want to know what Tonde would say about your newspaper journalist analogy now.
I would love to sit down with Tonde.
His perspective is so amazing on so many things.
I know. Yeah.
And that's another thing I just want to highlight. Like I've had the privilege of being able to sit down in groups of setters and talk to these groups of people who think constantly and deeply about setting, about the business of setting, about the logistics of setting. How do we streamline this more? How do we be more effective for our audience? And how do we help our audience become better climbers? Like they're almost always thinking with the climber's interests in mind. So when you go just automatically blaming the setter for your inadequacies, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You know, you're biting the hand that feeds you every time you do that.
Mm-hmm.
So keep that in mind, I think, next time you come up against a boulder that you feel like is stupid and you just want to blame the setter for it.
Yeah. Yeah, they're there for you.
Yeah. All right, I think that was a quick one. That was like 35 minutes.
Nice.
That's record time.
Nailed it.
Which is good because we've got like 42 of these to get through while you're here in Lander.
Leaves me more time to blame the setters who put everything up in the machine shop too.
I don't know who those people are. But you guys know where to find us. I will put a link to the blog post Nate mentioned if you want to check that out in the show notes in your Pocket Supercomputer. And if I forget, if this episode goes out sometime in 2022, which is entirely possible, then it's right there at powercompanyclimbing.com. You can find it by searching Nate's name on the blog posts. And you can also just hit me up on Instagram and I can lead you to it. I'm there on @PowerCompanyClimbing, also on the Facebooks at the same. And you should share that article on Twitter, as you should be sharing this podcast on the tweet machine. But you will not be able to tag us there because we don't tweet. We scream like eagles.
This time, this time, this time, this time, this time, this time to build, this time to build, this time to build, this time, this time to build, this time to build, this time to build, this time, power, this time to build, power, this time to build, power, this time to build, power. This time to build 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 power. This time to build. 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 This time.
Fuchsia hoodie.
Fuchsia hoodie, where did that come from?
You had that fuchsia hoodie that you were selling that one time.
Oh, that one time, that's right.
Yeah, I'm still jealous. I should have gotten it. I told myself I wouldn't because I was like, we really need to get this into the world, but I want it in my world.
Yeah, we can make more fuchsia hoodies. It's possible.